In this video we'll break down how to choose the camera when you are just starting out. The most important thing is not to fall victim to advertising. There is such huge variety of the cameras now, and that's easy to get confused about which models is right for you and your specific style of shooting. Cameras are divided into amateur, professional and even semi-professional categories. That's the nonsense. The terms professional and amateur were created by marketers to sell more expensive product to people who aren't familiar with the details. Beginners often think, I will buy an expensive camera and start shooting masterpieces right away. They spend a ton of money on a top-of-the-line camera, shoot a couple times, but it still turns out poorly, and they sell the camera for half its price. If you don't want that to happen, you need to understand that there is no miracles. Expensive camera don't have a masterpiece button. You have to learn how to take good photos. Professional can get the great shoots on both cheap and expensive camera because they know how to achieve the results they want. Professional understand the lights and knows what they are doing. The only difference in that of the top-of-the-line camera makes the shooting easier and faster. No cameras make you professional, your skills and experience do. If you bought the MacBook Pro M4 Max and use it only, let's say, to watch the YouTube, it's just an expensive toy in your hand. But if you edit photos or create the music, then that's the professional equipment. When you walk into the store, a good salesperson knows that you're likely to spend about 30% more than you planned. They can say, sure, that's the great camera, but it's still more of the amateur thing, and you are a serious guy, you are professional, and you need a professional camera, and boom, you are step out the store with something more expensive than you planned. Before spending money, you need to understand what features you really need and which ones you are just overpaying for, what genre you plan to shoot and where you plan to shoot. If you are serious about the photography, it's just like a business. You need to budget. This is not to say that you should buy a cheapest, crappiest camera, and if you have enough money, go ahead and buy an expensive gear. The point is that you should spend your money wisely, just like in any business. Any camera that costs at least $1,000 will cover all of the basic needs of most photographers, expect the sports and astrophotography and some other niche genre. But the most expensive the cameras, the more comfort it provides. And don't forget, the lens is much more important than the camera by itself. So when buying gear, it's better to spend more on the lens than the camera. Depending on the genre, you can also need extra equipment. When buying a modern camera, don't worry too much about the viewfinder. It's much easier to use the screen. All modern cameras have option to focus off any point of the frame just to touching the screen like your phone. In the past, camera had limited numbers of the focus point and it was terrible. Another thing, don't buy a DSLR in 2025. There is a huge difference in ease of use between them and the mirrorless camera. Well, unless you can get it for a chocolate bar. If you already have a DSLR, that's fine, you can stick with it and improve your skills. But if you are buying a new one, go to a mirrorless camera. And if you have any camera at all, just use it. If you don't have any camera, don't buy an expensive one. When choosing a camera, what matters most is how comfortable it to hold and how much you like it visually and tactually. Don't forget about the ease of use of the menu. Technically, the difference between the cameras of the same class from different manufacturers are minimal and it's not worth worrying about. The differences are mostly on paper, and in real life there is practically unnoticeable. Cameras from the Canon, Sony, Nikon and Fuji in the same price range will shoot the same. There might be some minor difference in autofocus, ISO and other parameters, but they won't be significant. Any cameras over 1000 is suitable for commercial shoots. There is some brand specific quirks. For example, Fuji has the best JPEG colors and a beautiful design with the vintage dials. but Fuji cameras aren't the most comfortable to hold, especially during the long shoots. Sony has probably the best autofocus, but their menu is terrible. Nikon cameras produce the sharpest image, have the highest burst rate, and are very comfortable to hold. Canon cameras have a slightly less sharpness image, which is actually better for portraiture, as you don't need to retouch skin imperfection as much. Canon also has the best menu, and along with the Nikon is the most comfortable to hold. I shoot with the Canon because it's comfortable for me, and my friend had a Canon camera when I just starting out, so I decided to go with the Canon. In my opinion, it's the industry standard for comfort. I'm not telling you to buy a Canon, I'm just sharing my experience and how I find it easier to work with. I know Canon models better, so I'm talking about them. The other characteristic of the cameras from the same class are nearly identical, and any flaws can be easily corrected in post-processing. If one of your friends has a Canon camera, it's better for you to get with the Canon, because if your camera breaks down and you need a replacement, you can ask them for help. Plus, you can borrow their lens. It's work for any brands, not only for Canon. Don't spend money on expensive gear if you are just starting out. Invest in learning instead. In any professions, you need to learn first, then practice. Medical students don't perform surgery right away. They have to read a lot of books and learn a lot first. Expensive gear doesn't do the work for you, it's make your job easier and faster. If something isn't work for you on a 1000 camera or more, the problem is not the camera, it's you. You need to work on your skills. Now a bit about my camera. I use the old Canon RP and it fully meets my needs. It's lightweight, and at first glance you might think it doesn't matter whether the camera weighs 1 pound or 2 pounds, but when you are shooting a wedding, let's say for 10 hours, it's make a huge difference. Plus, you need to consider the weight of the lens. I use the old EF lenses at 35mm f2.0 and 85mm f1.8. These aren't high-end lenses. I chose them because they are noticeably lighter. A lighter setup means more comfort, and these lenses still produce a good image. There is no noticeable difference for the client. The next reason any Canon cameras is comfortable to hold. It feels like the camera was designed to fit perfectly in your hand. The technical specs like the megapixels, ISO, autofocus and tracking focus are more than enough for what I do. In fact, there is another reason I chose this set. When I was flying to the US, I need to reduce my weight of my gear, so I took the setup that produces quality image, is lightweight and doesn't take much space. I'm not in a rush to upgrade because this setup works perfect for me. I also have 85mm f1.2, but I don't use this lens for long shoots. It's real heavy. There is one downside, though the battery life is a bit short. But this is easy solved by getting a few cheap batteries. Basically, anywhere there is an outlet, you can charge your battery. The advantage of these cheap batteries is that they charge very quickly. 5 cheap batteries are more than enough for me. I've never had all my batteries die on me and I couldn't continue shooting. I almost never use the original battery. It's just staying in my bag as a backup. And all of this I'm talking about the wedding shooting. I switched it to the Canon RP from the DSLR, and after the switch I really liked how the autofocus works on mirrorless cameras. There is almost no focus errors, unlike with the DSLR camera. And there is another new feature I really like. The Canon RP has a super handy feature. It's a C1, C2, C3 modes. All mirrorless Canon cameras have this feature. There is incredibly convenient. If you spend one evening to setting up these modes for different shooting conditions, like for example for studio shoots, portrait photography, and for shooting people in motion like families with the children, and you will see how convenient it is. I can assign these modes even when the camera is off, and during the shooting I can quickly switch between them. I can do all of this without even looking, which is incredibly convenient. So, let's sum up. If you already have a camera, just keep shooting with it. If you don't have any camera, don't feel pressure to buy an expensive one. In a month you might realize that photography is not for you. Start with something affordable. Of course, gear is important, but the most important thing is the learning how to work with the light and of course with the model. You can learn how to press the buttons and adjust dials in a month, but you will need years for practice to know what and when to adjust depending on the lights. If you don't want to spend years figuring it out, invest a little in training. Whether you follow my advice or not, it's entirely up to you. But the most important thing is no matter what camera you have, don't shoot in a bad light condition. The image will look terrible. It's better to spend some time looking around to find some interesting good light. Once again, I'm not saying that the cheap and expensive gear deliver the same result. 100% they don't. But the idea of this video is that when you are just starting out, it's better to invest your time and money in learning first. Then, once you understand what you truly need to grow, you can invest in more expensive equipment. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. I would also appreciate if you are sharing this video with your friends. Thank you and see you soon.